Sometimes, out of a terrible tragedy, you find a single, incredibly moving story. And that's what we're going to talk about today, the Chhattisgarh train crash and one little boy's story of survival. So where does this all take place? We're in the Indian state of Chhattisgarh. And it's here, near a city called Bilaspur, that a day that started out completely normal, well, it turned into an absolute nightmare. A devastating train collision brought everything to a sudden, horrific stop. But in the middle of all that chaos and wreckage, something incredible happened. A small child, only 2 years old, was found alive. So let's get into his story. This is about a young survivor named Rishi. You know, this little boy, Rishi, he made it through an accident that, in just a single moment, would completely upend his entire world. And when I say he lost his world, I mean it. In that crash, he lost his father, Arjun Yadav, his mother, Sheila, and his maternal grandmother, Manawati. Just like that, they were all gone. And here's where the story takes a really modern, kind of unexpected turn. In all the confusion, right, Rishi was taken to a hospital all by himself. He had injuries to his head and his legs. But then, people started sharing photos of him on social media. And believe it or not, that's how his extended family found him. These pictures led them right to the hospital, and they were able to rush to his side just hours later. It's pretty incredible when you think about it. So, to really grasp the sheer shock of this, the whiplash of it all, let's rewind. Let's go back just 1 hour before the crash happened. Okay, so picture this. Just 60 minutes before everything went wrong, Rishi's aunt, Archana, she's on the phone with his dad. He's on the train, coming back from some medical treatment, and he tells her, hey, we're just a few kilometers away. It was just a totally normal, everyday phone call, the kind you have a million times. And looking back on that call, her words just say it all, don't they? Life can change in an instant. Now, Rishi's story it's absolutely heartbreaking, but we have to remember he was one part of a much, much larger tragedy. So let's talk about that ripple effect. In total, 11 people died in that collision. That's 11 lives, 11 families just shatter. And every single one of those 11 people had a story. Let's talk about one of them, a passenger named Pramila Vastrakar. Her son later shared that she was on that train for such a happy reason. She was finally going to visit her elder daughter after being apart for a long time. You know, a journey that should have been full of hope, and it ended in the absolute worst way imaginable. And another life that was cut way too short was Ranjit Prabhakar's. Ranjit was a labor contractor, and for him, this trip was just business as usual. He was traveling to see off a group of his workers on another train. That was it. He was supposed to be back home that same evening. So after something this horrific happens, what comes next? Well, let's talk about the grief, the search for blame, and just the immediate aftermath. Rishi's uncle, Ajay Yadav, he really put the family's devastation into words. He just said, the entire family had fallen apart. Okay, so in response to all this, the authorities announced there'd be financial support. They promised what's called an ex gratia payment. It's basically a goodwill payment, totaling 15 lakh rupees. And to put that in perspective, that's about 18,000 US dollars. That money was a combination of funds from Indian Railways and the state government for the next of kin. But, you know, for the family, this is about so much more than just money. They want answers. Rishi's uncle has come out and blamed negligence for what happened, and he's really pushing the government not just for someone to be held accountable, but for more help to make sure Rishi's future is secure. And that really brings us full circle, back to that little boy at the very heart of this story, and the really uncertain future he now faces. I mean, this is the tough reality they're dealing with now. Rishi's dad, Arjun, he was an auto rickshaw driver. He was just working hard to provide for his family. And with him gone, it's not just this massive emotional hole, it's a huge financial one too. The family's really struggling, trying to figure out how they're going to care for this little boy. And it all comes down to the biggest, most difficult question, doesn't it? What happens to Rishi now? He's just 2 years old. His parents were taken from him, and he's facing a future that his family is now desperately trying to piece back together for him. And that's really the final haunting question that lingers. Once the headlines fade and the investigations are over, how does a family actually rebuild after being completely shattered like this? For Rishi and for the family that now has to raise him, that's a question they're going to face every single day.